We are live. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to graph parabolas in standard form. Okay, standard form is when it's in the form of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, now the very first problem I have is in vertex form, and I did this on purpose because I want to go and we're going to review what we've already known, and then we'll flip the page and we'll do one in the other form. Okay, so this one is not in standard form. This is in what we call vertex form. Okay, I like vertex form because if it's in vertex form, bam, the answer is right there. The answer is just staring at me. The answer is, for the vertex, it's going to be the opposite of this. Okay, and so if I've got a little formula here, right? And the formula is with the parentheses squared. So the A makes it stretch, taller, shorter, right? The value, whatever value this stretches it, that's the X value. But you see how it's subtract? It's because it's the opposite, right? So it's always the opposite. We know this, but I'm going to write this down. We know that little symbol means opposite. Remember, we do the dance back and forth. It's the opposite. And then plus k. We know it's a parabola because of the x squared, because it's squared, okay? So this will go through kind of a few things that Autumn already told us. So Autumn, you set us up for today's lesson. Thank you. Okay. So example 1. Let's take a look at it. So if we want to graph fx equals x minus 2 quantity squared, subtract 4, then it's in vertex form. I like that. So what I'm going to do first is go straight and let's figure out what the vertex is, okay? So I know what the vertex is. The vertex is at the opposite. It's a positive 2, right? Positive 2, negative 4. So my vertex is positive 2, negative 4. Everybody good on that? Does that make sense, right? It's the opposite, positive 2, negative 4. So I can put that on my graph. There's my vertex, okay? Of course, the vertex is the lowest spot, right? Now, the line of symmetry, we haven't talked about this, but we know it, right? We know parabolas are symmetrical. Like when we do our points, we can fold it over to get the other points. So there has to be a line that goes right down the middle of it, like the folding line. Well, it's called the line of symmetry. The line of symmetry is the line that goes right down the middle. It always goes through the vertex, right? It has to go through the vertex because that would be the very middle spot. So my line of symmetry here is a x equation. It's, in this case, my line of symmetry is x equals 2. Line of symmetry is x equals 2. Okay? It has to be because it goes through the vertex, right? Line of symmetry has to go through the vertex because that's the very middle of the graph, okay? Now, X-intercepts and Y-intercepts. Now the Y-intercept, let's do what Autumn said. So it's up here in my notes, it says, okay, if we want to find the Y-intercept, we're going to let x equal 0. Okay, so I'm going to do a little math. I can handle that. So I'm going to do my Y-intercept. And I'm going to take my equation. And don't get confused, please. Fx and y really are the same thing in here, okay, for right now. Other classes further up, we'll change that up. For right now, y and fx are the same thing, so I put a 0 here, right? Let x equal 0, put a 0 there. So I'm going to go, okay, y equals, parentheses, 0 minus 2 squared minus 4. Okay, so all I did was I put 0 in for the x. Okay, you guys see what I did? I said let x equal 0, so I put 0 right here. Let's simplify it. Well, that's pretty easy. Y equals, that's a negative 2 squared minus 4, because 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Now I'm going to square it. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4, so I get y equals a positive 4 minus 4, right? Or I get 0. Okay, so I know I have a y-intercept of 0, 0. So I have a y-intercept of 0, 0. Okay, so I can graph that. Right? Now, x-intercepts. let's do what Autumn said. Okay, and this is setting us up for what we turn on the other side. So what does it say? The x-intercept, let y equal 0 and solve. Let y equal 0 and solve. So I'm going to let y equal 0. So instead of writing y or f of x, I just put 0 here. So, okay, I'm going to put 0 right there. 0 is equal to x minus 2 squared minus 4. But I'll do the work over here, okay? So I'm looking for the x-intercepts. Oftentimes there's 2. Think about a parabola, right? It's going to cross twice. Oftentimes, if you think about the shape of a parabola, it's going to go through the x twice, right? So a lot of times there's 2 answers. Sometimes there's 1, and sometimes there's none. But most of the time there's 2 x-intercepts. That makes sense if you think about how you graph it. And boom, hit it, and boom, hit it again, okay? So let's do that. I'm going to have a 0 equals my x minus 2 squared minus 4, okay? And I'm going to solve. All right, we did this. Luckily, we already did this exact same problem, thanks to Autumn. We'll do it again. I want to bring over the 4. So how do I bring over the 4? I just add it. You okay with that? All right, just to bring it over, I'm just going to add it to both sides. So I add 4 plus 4 plus 4, and I get 4 equals parentheses x minus 2 squared, right? We need 2 answers. Oh, I'm going to write that down somewhere. I need 2 answers. 2 answers, okay? So I know it has to be 2 answers because remember how we graph it, it's going to go through at one spot and then back up, it's going to go through it again. So it has to be 2 answers. So if I take the square root, right? I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So if I go square root and square root, because the square root cancels the square, right? So that cancels square, but over here, when you take the square root of 4, it's 2 and negative 2. It's 2 and negative 2. So we're going to write this as plus or minus 2. And the square is gone, so then I just get x minus 2. Okay, 2 answers, because negative 2 times negative 2. Real quick. Negative 2 times negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2. 4, right? What's 2 times 2? 4. Both numbers will work, right? So if you take the square root of 4, it's 2 and negative 2. So now what I have is, with 2 answers, I should also have 2 equations. There are 2 mini equations, so I'm going to have 2 mini equations. So what are my mini equations? Well, I've got a 2 equals an x minus 2, and I've got a negative 2 equals an x minus 2. So 2 mini equations. Am I going too fast? So if I solve, I go plus 2, x equals 4, okay? And if I go plus 2, I got x equals 0. Now, this seems like a lot of work, doesn't it? Because I know, Isaac, you could do this on your table and you can get it right. And so I took an easy problem on purpose to show you something you probably could have done with your 1, 1, 2, 2, right? You could have done that. But so why did I go through all the work to show you something that you can do more easily? Because eventually the problems aren't as easy as that. Does that make sense? Eventually the numbers aren't nice numbers. Right? And eventually the numbers you can't get from a table, right? So we need to know the process so that when the numbers are bad, we can do it, okay? So let's go ahead and graph it. I know that I'm going to have an x-intercept, then my x-intercepts are at 0, 0 and at 4, 0, okay? So 0, 0 is here, 4, 0 is here. And with a parabola, I've got, all I need is 3 points. Really, all I need is 3 points to get the general shape. So the general shape should look like this, okay? How am I doing? And of course, again, you could have done this another way, correct? Could have got the vertex and done the 1, 1, 2, 4, and that would have worked fine. Now, increasing, decreasing. Well, this is so easy. Where is it going up? And where is it going down? So it's going right at the vertex. Are we looking at the vertex here? Okay, right there's the vertex. Where's it going up? From here over, right? So increasing, write this down. Increasing. We're going to write from x equals 0 to infinity. Yeah. There you go. So it increases. It's going uphill. It's this easy. It goes uphill from here to infinity. You guys agree with that? Where's it coming downhill? On the other side, right? So it's going downhill from negative infinity to 0. Okay, does that make sense? It's going downhill from negative infinity to 0. It's not that hard. So decreasing, so it's decreasing from negative infinity to x equals 0, okay? Where's it going downhill? From negative infinity, it's coming downhill to right here at 0, right? It's not that bad. Now, there are better ways to write this, which I'm going to teach you later, okay? Because this is really not the best way to write this. There's symbols that make this more easy, okay? Thumbs up. But if you use words for right now, it makes sense, right? I'm going downhill from negative infinity to 0. I made a mistake, 2, and nobody caught it because I'm not awake yet. It's Monday, right? To 2, right? X equals 2. Can't believe I made that mistake. X is 2. You guys agree x equals 2 right here? Okay, ready to turn the page since I made my mistake and fix it. It's Monday morning, huh? Okay, so now, if you turn the page, it's no longer in standard or in vertex form. It's in standard form. This is the way they normally are written. Parabolas are normally written like this, okay? So the only thing easy about this form is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is right there. And I'll go through that, but that's the only thing that's easy. But the vertex takes a little bit more work. You can't find the vertex from this form. Okay, so if I look at example 1, the vertex, you can't get the vertex from this form. But you got a little itty-bitty mini equation for the line of symmetry in the vertex, okay? So let's look at this little mini equation, okay? So let's go first for the line of symmetry. So my line of symmetry, I have a formula, x equals negative b over 2a, all right? I'm going to highlight that. We're going to use this formula a lot. So easy formula, right? But it finds the vertex, okay? So every a is the number in front of the x squared, always. B is the number in front of the x, always. And then there's c, the number by itself. So in this case, in my example 1, a is 1, b is 2, and c is negative 8. All right? Just a, you got it? A, B, C. You guys got it? All right, so then, if I want to do then the line of symmetry, I'm going to use my formula. X equals negative b. So negative b is 2, right? I'm going to go negative 2 over 2 times 1. Okay? All right, real quick, what did I do? So I'm using my formula. X equals negative b over 2a. So here's my b. So it's a negative b, negative 2 over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. Okay, which is negative 2 over 2, which is a negative 1. So my line of symmetry is at x equals negative 1. Okay, so that means I'm going to go to my graph. My line of symmetry is right there. Boom. Okay, there's my line of symmetry right down the middle at negative 1. All right, x equals negative 1. Okay, so let me back you up. Okay, what did I find? I found the middle of the graph. Found the line of symmetry just with this limit. Remember this from last year? We did this last year, right? Okay, and there it is, x equals negative 1. Boom, I just graphed it in, okay? Now, I know the vertex lies on this line. You guys agree? So to find its y value, we plug it in, okay? So for the vertex, let x equal negative 1 and plug it in. Okay, plug it in. So I plug it in, I'll take negative 1 and I'll plug it in. Okay, so I'm going to get my y equals x squared plus 2x minus 8. So plug it in. So if I want to plug it in, I'm going to put my negative 1 in for x, right? Just plug it in. That's easy. Okay, I'm going to go y equals negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 minus 8. I'm just going to plug it in. Okay, I'll just do the math. Negative 1 squared is 1, minus 2 minus 8. Just doing the math, right? Which is negative 9. So I know the vertex now. The vertex, oh, that's a terrible R, vertex is at negative 1, negative 9. That's my vertex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? How am I doing? Pretty easy? Okay, now, the Y-intercept. I like the Y-intercept. Okay, let me shift this over for a second so you guys can see it. The Y-intercept is the easiest of all. The Y-intercept is the value C. Okay, so the Y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 8. Okay? Just like on a regular graph, the Y-intercept is that number right there. That's the Y-intercept. It's just that number right there is my Y-intercept. So my Y-intercept is always the C value. So that's easy to graph. It's right there. There's my graph. There's my point right there. Now, I have another point right. Look at my pencil. I have another point right there. Correct? Why do I have another point right there? It's a reflection. It's symmetrical, right? So I have another point there. Now, what about the X-intercepts? Let's see if you remember how to factor. Maybe. Maybe. So, if to find the X-intercepts, I'll go through it slowly. X-intercepts, okay? Okay, to find my X-intercepts, we set Y equal to 0. So we go, okay, let Y equal 0. So we've got 0 equals x squared plus 2x minus 8, okay? So to find the X-intercepts, we let Y equal 0. Now we learned how to factor last year. Doesn't mean you remember it, but you know maybe somebody remembers how to factor. But here it is. We've got to solve for x. There are 2 answers. X squared. There's 2 answers. And that makes sense. X-intercepts, right? 2 answers. So let's factor. Anybody remember how to factor? Okay. Remember this?
Yeah.
X and x, because that makes my x squared, right?
Negative 4, positive 2.
There you go.
No, it'd be
Positive 4, negative 2. Okay, good job, Isaac. Because they multiply to make negative 8 and they add to make 2. Okay, but that's not my answers, right? Because then I go to my mini equations, right? Remember that, the mini equations? So we need our mini, call them mini equations. So I'm going to go, okay, 0 equals x plus 4 and 0 equals x minus 2. You guys remember doing this last year? Of course you do. We did a lot of factoring last year, right? And then one answer is negative 4 and the other answer is positive 2. Okay, so then those are my X-intercepts because I just solved for x. And I'm just going to put them on my graph. So 2 and, oops, 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if I graph that in, my parabola looks like this, okay? So today's lesson should be a nice little review of things we learned last year. You might have forgotten them, right? But it's okay. It's a good review, right? Thumbs up. Okay, because you've seen this before, okay? Sideways. Anybody sideways? Okay. Good. Thumbs up. You've seen this before, okay? All right, you will need graph paper today. You will need to show some work. You will have to work today. I'm so sorry. I know it's a Monday, but we got lots of time. Okay. Oops, sorry. Sorry, man. Okay. I know. We're gonna have to shift you guys around. Hey, what you guys? Well, I'll wait till probably third period. We'll move everybody back. Yeah. Really? I hit stop. Thank you, Azana. Stop.
You gotta edit.
Stop.
Edit all this out.
Wow. Stop.